Hey everyone, it's Kerr from Daydream Nation, and today we've got a special panel where we are going to talk about a Deep Purple live album, The Last Concert in Japan. This was the Mark IV lineup, 1975 December, featuring Tommy Bolin. I've got Raised on Rock radio show with Mark O'Neill, Pulse 94.7 FM. Welcome to the show, Mark. How are you going?
Very good, thanks. And you?
Not too bad, not too bad. And I've got Rob Buchta from Good Muse Music. Check it out on YouTube. And Rushfans. Welcome to the show, Rob. How are you going?
I'm good and good. Thanks for having me back. It's great to be with you guys.
Fantastic. Well, gentlemen, we've got a bit to get through. Mark, what was your first encounter with this lineup? And are you a fan of the Mark IV Come Taste the Band lineup featuring Tommy Bolin?
Very much so. Now, the condensed thing that I'll condense it, that I've said a million times, I hated Purple up until December 76. I bought Made in Europe, took it home, heard the first riff of Burn, and was hooked. Went out the next day, which was the day Tommy Bolin died, and bought every Purple album. Now, I'm not sure when the last concert in Japan was released. It might have been 77.
77.
Okay. Well, not long, maybe weeks after I became a fan, I bought a bootleg of Long Beach. So I heard how Bolin really played the song and was very impressed, with that. When the last concert in Japan came out and I bought it, I had the background of knowing that that's not representative of Mark IV necessarily. They had great nights and they had terrible nights. And so that's how I took it. And knowing that Tommy Bolin died of an overdose, but there weren't a lot of details back then, I said, well, that must have been one of those nights.
Absolutely. But you're a huge fan of the Come Taste the Band album per se, aren't you?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Rob, what about you? Are you a fan of Tommy Bolin, or for that matter, the Mark IV Deep Purple lineup with Tommy?
I came into it late with Tommy. Blackmore was my guy. And then when they got together with Glenn Hughes and Coverdale, those two records were amazing. I mean, it was a whole different direction, really good writing, pretty solid. And with Tommy, I didn't really know too much about him, apart from James Gang, his recording with Billy Cobham on with Stratus, the song Stratus, with Jan Hammer. So I kind of came into it a little bit later. So to hear Tommy in the Purple vein, especially with this record, I didn't know what to expect. I mean, I heard a lot of great things. He's like the musician's musician, etc. So I didn't really have any expectations of what to expect from his playing, other than just hearing, reputation type stuff, from players. I mean, Cobham was enthralled by him. He's like, this guy's 19 and he's playing like he's 40 years past that age, So I didn't really know what to expect until going back to these records, and in particular this one. I didn't have the Last Concert in Japan 9-track album. I had this one, which came out in 2001. So I'm more familiar with that record than I am with Last Concert in Japan.
And we will have a bit of a yak about that. I will focus on Last Concert in Japan, which is the truncated version, but we will have a bit of a yak about the extended version.
Yeah, so I'm not really as attached to Tommy, apart just from reputational stuff, and then hearing him play is another story. So,
yeah, well, that's good for the show because you've got a little bit of detachment and outside looking in, which is really good to have that sort of a view. I'm an unabashed Tommy Bolin Mark IV lineup fan. I think I've always said Come Taste the Band as top 5 Deep Purple albums. I love it. I think it's the prototype for Whitesnake. I think it's an album against all odds that there was so much adversity, so much drug use, and shenanigans that were occurring, that they were able to squeeze out some great music. It contains some songs that are just deeply emotional, like Ode to G and You Keep On Moving are some of the most heartstring, emotional, melancholy songs that Deep Purple have ever pulled together. So I think it was lightning in a bottle, and it's an album, pardon the pun, and if you get the album, it's a glass of claret. It gets better with age, doesn't it, Mark? I think it does get better with age, this album. And it doesn't sound dated, because there are some albums from the 70s that sound very much of their time. But to my ears, that it sounds contemporary. And, I think this is the album where David Coverdale started to find his feet, and you could hear that his Whitesnake persona was coming. So there's a lot of layers to this album. But as for this live concert, this is a whole thing altogether. So I'll put it to you guys. I'm a Deep Purple tragic, and I have collected bootlegs and live concerts and videos and things like that. What do you think about where a concert is a complete car crash? Do you think it should be released, even for fans like me, or it should be kept in the vault? Because Glenn Hughes has been interviewed, and he said it's a terrible album, should never been released. So before we talk about whether it's terrible or not, the topic of, do you think that from an archival perspective that things should be released? Mark, over to you. What do you think?
Yes. No band is perfect. And even if they were all health fanatics, sooner or later you're going to have a dud of a show. And in their case, it was more than just one, but this might have been the worst, all in all. But it still, to me, has a lot of listenable qualities.
What about you, Rob? Do you think, like you're a fan of, say, Rush? I'm just picking some bands that you're probably a tragic. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. Do you think that Good, Bad and Indifferent, if it's available, just release it?
It's like with Rush, certain bands go in and refix things, right? So you have little adjustments you make depending on the band itself when they hear their live tracks, right? So with these guys, with these records, with Deep Purple, it's live. I mean, it's all there, so it's truly a live record. Bruises, cuts, all that stuff. Crazy edits, if there are any. Which I think with the last concert in Japan, there were some edits in there. With the one that I have, it's more repolished, remastered. So I think it's good to hear everything in its state as it is. I don't think you should really go back and retouch things. If it's going to be a live record, be a live record. I was disappointed in the overall, but I agree with you, Pia, in terms of there's potentialities of really, and there are really great moments in the recording. So I'm mixed in a way with it. I think you want to represent the band in the best light, and that endears the fans more. But I think if it's fixed too much, then there's an issue with that. So if you go back and do too much to a record, it takes away from the real live feel of what the band was actually doing. So I think I would agree. I concur with with Mark that you should put it out, and then the fans can make a determination. What they want to do with that. So
maybe they should put a label on it and just put for fans only. Because if I was going to hook somebody into Deep Purple, and they're a band that people should hook onto to get that new cross-generational audience, this is not the entry point. The very best of Deep Purple in rock, Machine Head, Burn. Even Come Taste the Band, the studio album, but don't start with the last concert in Japan, because you'd hear it and you go, what is this all about? All right, let's get to the brass tacks. Let's talk about this concert. So straight off the bat, there's a lot of mythology, isn't there, Mark, about this? And it all revolves around Tommy Bolin. Now, Tommy Bolin he was a heroin addict. And I think Deep Purple, when they got him in the band, they didn't realise that. But he was very much into the junk, there's a little bit of a backstory with this particular run of dates in Tokyo where he may have had a drug incident with his arm. He slept on his arm. It was numb, and he was basically incapacitated and couldn't play the guitar. So I've read a ton of stories, and there's kind of little variations in details, left or right. But that seems to be your understanding of what happened, Mark, on this infamous concert.
Yes, that's what I've always heard.
Yep.
And then when the show was starting, or I'll wait till we talk about Burn, I guess. So
yeah, well, he basically couldn't play. He could only play chords, and I've seen video footage do shapes on stage and look like he's playing. So pretty dire. And when you listen to the songs on this album, you can see that Ian Paice and John Lord have now, if this was a soccer team or a rugby team or a rugby league team, they've gone to the front. They're taking over. So it's really the John Lord and Ian Paice show, because they are just doing everything they can to cover the cracks. But there's one thing you hear, and straight off the bat with Burn, where's the guitar? It's not there. Yeah. So why don't we have a little bit of a listen, and then, Rob, I'll get your thoughts, and we'll come in from there. As you can hear, gents, no guitar. I can hear some rumbling guitar strumming, like some chords, but nothing. There you go. So that's the first example. So you've got basically Ian Paice, the mix is right up with the drums. He's doing... And his drumming on this album is sensational. So you can just see he's pulling out an extra effort. And then John Lord, you're right up in the mix. Was that your observation, or listening to the Burn, the first track on the album?
Yeah, it reminds me of Come Hell or High Water, when they started doing Highway Star, and Richie is nowhere. He's not even on stage. Tommy's on stage on this one, but Richie was nowhere until the solo, and then he walks up behind the stack and starts playing the solo. But you can hear him, and he played just fine. It was a disappointing start, not hearing Tommy, because I want to hear, being a guitar player, I want to hear guitar, and the fact that it was pretty much not in the mix, barely there, is disappointing. It's such a letdown,
Yeah. Mark, your thoughts on Burn as an opener?
Well, the story from back in the day was Tommy forgot how to play it because he was so messed up. And in one of the magazines, I don't know, Cream or Circus or whatever, it said he was standing there saying, "How the F does it go?" in the beginning. And then when he kicked in, he really didn't kick in. And it was just very... very disappointing. But again, with my background from having the bootleg of Long Beach, I knew that he was a lot better than that.
Yeah, he does. And I've got the Long Beach, but he still doesn't. I mean, if you expect to hear Blackmore and replicating the trade-offs, where John Lord's doing his arpeggios, the neoclassical keyboard lines, and Blackmore's matching it note for note, he still doesn't do it. He does it in his own style, because Bolin's style is very jazz fusion. It's very atmospheric. He uses a lot more effects than Blackmore did. There's a little bit of flange and delays. And I think he uses a different sort of tricks in his armory than Blackmore does. Wouldn't that be fair to say, Mark?
Oh, sure. And I'm glad he was different, because if they brought in a Blackmore impersonator, it wouldn't have worked.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, why don't we go to the next track? So this is a bit more that follows the album. So where Burn sounded a little bit more, it's lacking because there's no guitar. You can hear that the guitar's a little bit more up in the mix, and maybe he's starting to get some feeling in his fingers and he's kind of following a riff. Mark, what do you think of this one?
Yeah, I think it's an improvement, although you couldn't get much worse than Burn, but definite. It's like he was starting to wake up a bit.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, it's really kind of pointing towards like more the erratic nature of his playing, and you hate to have that. I mean, you hate to have a person who's sort of creating a detriment on a recording, or a live situation. The live album, of course, a lot different than any studio situation. You want to kind of bring the studio thing to life in the live setting, so it just kind of points to the erratic part of Tommy and what he was going through that particular night. It's a shame in a way, because I want to hear more. I want to hear more from him. But yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah. Mark, what do you think of Glenn Hughes' performance on this? Because he was. There's some moments on this album where he's really off key, and he does these Stevie Wonder reaching for the high helium notes that are kind of a little bit inappropriate, and it's sort of like a bit cringy. Yeah, I think he's a bit loose on this album, and there's a lot of folks. I've done a lot of shows on Glenn Hughes. There's a constant criticism that he oversings, and especially when he was in that live environment with Mark III, it was like he was trying to assert his authority over David Coverdale, because he was originally the singer. He was chosen as the singer, but Coverdale got the mantle. He was the lead singer of the band, and there seems to be a kind of a competition. Anyway, in the context of that, Mark, what do you think of Glenn Hughes on this?
Well, he was very up and down during his time in Purple. Sometimes he was more restrained, but this isn't one of those times. And as his time in Purple went on, and then when Tommy joined, and being both addicts, I think both of them had a manageable, if you could have a manageable addiction, but as it went on, they both just lost it. And Glenn with his singing, that's part of it, but the other part was, in a way, he did resent Coverdale, and he tried to dominate the vocals, and it just made for a rotten sounding recording.
Yeah, and I think you can tell, like, where he's a bit loose with the cocaine or whatever he's on, he goes on, he just pushes it a little bit too far. There's fine when you're doing a little bit of riffing and you're doing the singing, but when you push that note and you go a little bit too high, then you know that he's a little bit loose. Maybe there's something behind the scenes in regards to that. And that, Rob, that goes into the full version of this album where he goes, Georgia on your mind. Now, to me, some people like it. To me, I'd prefer not to hear it.
It's a bit odd, yeah. But I think it gives Glenn a place to shine, because it seems like with this record, there's tracks on the record where each person gets to shine a bit, right? Whether it's an instrumental track, we'll get to all those, of course, but I think this is like a moment for Glenn to get more soulful, because that's kind of his roots, And then, of course, coming from Trapeze, he was the lead singer of that outfit, so to come into Purple as a bass player, and then being told you're just a bass player, he wasn't really happy with that part of it. But I think that's like the pairing of Smoke and Georgia is very strange. I don't really. It's an odd fit. I mean, somehow they made it presentable, but I think it's kind of strange, But it's okay. They were trying new things. I mean, it's a new band. It's a different vein of Purple. So, not no pun intended, but I think it just gives. I guess like a light to like the potentiality of this particular group, this lineup. There is a lot of potential. I mean, as much as I don't care for a bunch of things, I think there was a lot of potential in what could have been with this lineup. So
Absolutely. All right. Well, the next track is "You Keep On Moving," and this is one of my all-time favorite Deep Purple songs. So I think this really is hits you in the gut emotionally. And let's have a little bit of a play with this one, and I'll get your thoughts on this one. Very big fat bass sound of Glenn.
Definitely.
Now this is a good shrewd move to put this as the third song, because Tommy can chime in with these little guitar bits, but it just, it's still within tone of the studio recording. Nothing too flashy, a bit more subtle. It's almost like the studio album. Yeah, he's doing the high. So, Mark, what do you think of that version? I think they're starting to straighten the ship. That's kind of decent.
Yeah, it's getting there, and I love the "Come Taste the Band" versions. One of their best songs, I think, of all through Purple's different lineups. That wasn't the best, but yeah, I agree with you.
They're starting to straighten the ship, and he can do these little kind of guitar licks here and there, and you think, okay, it kind of disguises that there's a bit of an issue. So it's not like Burn, where you've got a whole instrument not being played, but that sort of song, I think they kind of get away with it. But even when you were listening to the vocals, you could still hear the Glenn. It's like an instinct. He can't help himself. Like on record, they're equal. So Martin Birch, did Martin Birch produce it? I think he did. Anyway, they're both on even keel, but live, he just can't help himself. He's just got to poke it out a little bit further. It's kind of this competition. Rob, what do you think? Do you think they're starting to straighten the ship on this particular track?
Yeah, it was getting tighter, no pun intended again. But yeah, it's definitely starting to get more where, Tommy was like, maybe his hearing was getting a little better. He could hear things a little bit more. He can kind of pick his moments, even though he was not doing well physically. But I think that part of his playing is kind of starting to appear, where he's the musician's musician, as he's been known to be called. So he's starting to listen a bit more, perhaps, maybe coming out of the fog a little bit and kind of just planning where he's going to put his playing for the show. But yeah, I think it's starting to kind of to gel a bit more. And it's just a nice placement in terms of sequence on the album. It's just a very, like you said, a very moody track. The melancholy kind of creeping in there a little bit too. I think it's a nice representation of, like, again, the potentiality of this particular lineup on our live recording. Yeah, great stuff. I mean, I definitely enjoyed this more. It didn't make it as arduous to hear the record when listening to all the tracks. It was like, okay, this is cool, And even with Glenn going up to that upper register, that stratosphere, seemed to be not as abrasive, I think even like that lead singer thing starting to kind of creep in, but also trying to be restraining, but youth's creeping in too. So there's a maturity level in there as well of, like, what to do and which lane is your lane, So yeah, I think it's even then you could hear him kind of pull back at times, back off the mic, So I think he might have been more self-aware that perhaps maybe I should kind of, just reel it back a little bit. Perhaps, I don't know.
Yeah. And Japan, their audiences are some of the most polite audiences in the world. So I think they would have just politely clapped. But boy, oh boy, when this tour got to Liverpool or England, it got really, really tough, didn't it, Mark? I've read some testimonies on the last tour or the last show in Liverpool, and there was catcalling and where's Blackers, and I think there was story of band members in tears backstage that it was just all over.
Yeah, well, Lord and Coverdale decided that was it in their minds, like during the show, and then when Coverdale went to tell Lord, and Paice. So when Coverdale went to tell them, or they went to tell him, he said, well, I was thinking the same thing. So it was over, even though they did have another tour planned.
And it wasn't such a long period of time before Bolin tragically passed after that final tragic show in Liverpool. I think the story was that he handed in his resignation letter, or David said to Lordy and Paice that I quit, and they said, we quit a month ago. It was something a lot earlier, so the die had been cast. All right, well, let's go to the next track. See how we go there. Wild Dogs.
For the first time in Japan, Tommy Bolin is going to sing for you.
They put a car to cut me free. I'm sick of my own company. Sometimes I miss the gold. Those times I miss my home. That's where I go. If I knew which way was home. Trail, no chance for love, no sign of life. Just wild dogs howling in the night. Oh, that's what I like.
Well, gentlemen, it's really strange, but this is the most engaged Tommy Bolin is in the whole concert, and it's his own song. He kind of lifts for his song. It's like it's like Sleepers Awake. Mark, what do you think?
Well, yeah, and the fact that he was singing also, so that created more of a focus for him. But yeah, he's definitely coming along. And maybe if the first few songs were just a rehearsal and then they started the show after a few songs, it would have been a lot different.
But I think that kind of irritated a lot of Purple fans. Because, it's got this element that he didn't really belong in the band. And the only time he seems engaged, especially in this concert, is his own material.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit mercenary. Is he just a gun for hire? He's taken the cash. The thing that I'm trying to get my head around is that I don't know, Mark or Rob, I've got the original rehearsal tapes, the audition for when he joined the band, and he was sensational, and I can understand why they picked him. I think it's out on Purple Records. It was released through that specialty label. It's called Days May Come and Days May Go. Listen to that. It's a jam session, and he is on absolute fire. So, and apparently he walked in and he looked like a rock star. Looked like he had all the jewelry, the Indian jewelry, the whatnot, and he looks like a rock star, doesn't he? He's very handsome. He had the image, a bit of personality. But, I mean, in the context of this album, if there was a peak and it'd call an engagement graph, that's the peak of the album. And it's his own material. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, I think engagement's a good word, because when you feel like you're part of a situation, you tend to, give it a bit more, and if you feel like you don't belong to something, that's probably where a lot of the drug use comes in too. I mean, if you don't feel like you belong somewhere, you do anything you can to kind of, treat yourself or self-medicate to kind of just get through the experience, which is a shame. And it's such a tragedy when it happens with bands, where you got a guy and they're just suffering through it, like you said, a hired gun, so to speak. But he was doing that anyway. He was with James Gang. He was with Zephyr. I mean, he was with a lot of different outfits, his own solo stuff. So I think, this is probably the best, like you said, the best representation of him on this record is this song. And I think just the fact that they allowed him to do that is kind of a good sort of shine on the band, to give him a spot, perhaps maybe to reorient himself. Like, you are part of the situation. You do belong here. We want you here. But I think just the fog of whatever he was in just didn't register. Perhaps, I don't know the inner workings, but just from an outside looking in kind of thing, that's my impression. But yeah, it's a great spot for him. I think it was important to have it on there, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And like as I said, he was incapacitated, could only play chords, but even his guitar playing on that particular song, it sounds like he's attacking the strings a lot harder. So maybe it's muscle memory. Oh, it's my song. And he's just pushing through the barrier. Mark, are you a fan of Tommy Bolin's solo albums?
Well, I have both of them. And Private Eyes is a little more laid back. But I like them both. They're not my favorite albums in the world. And I had his albums with the James Gang and saw him on either the Midnight Special or Don Kirshner's, and he was smoking with them. Not substance, is his guitar playing.
Thank you for the clarification there, Mark O'Neill. I don't know if it's Private Eyes or Teaser, but that did go gold in America. So did his passing get a little bit of was that newsworthy in America? Was he known in America in the rock circles? I'm trying to ascertain what level was he known in classic rock in the 70s in America.
Well, he wasn't top tier. He wasn't up with the Jimmy Page conversation. And unfortunately, Blackmore would have been a level down from that when he should have been really number one to me. But no, he really wasn't in the mix of, with teenagers or whatever, talking about guitar players. Now and then he would be brought up, and usually it was like, they stink without Blackmore. So no, unfortunately not.
Yeah. But did he I was just sort of ascertaining, was he regarded as a talent on the rise, or it just wasn't really spoken about at all?
No, when he was spoken about on radio, FM radio, sort of the more intellectual type of DJs, and this is on FM and rock stations, they would bring him up now and then.
Right. So more of a genre fans only type thing.
Yeah, but usually it was about, the fusion stuff that he did, occasionally the James Gang.
Yep.
And less seldom Deep Purple, because Come Taste the Band didn't get a lot of airplay.
No, it wasn't a big hit in America. I think it got into the lower reaches of top 30 or whatnot, so it wasn't the hit that Burn had been the previous year or so.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go to the next track and we'll just dissect it. What a gorgeous song. Again, that probably just it's a fairly stock standard kind of riff, and you can see that he can just get away with playing chords, and John Lord is really taking the lion's share of the work there, isn't he, Mark?
Yeah, and thank God for John Lord, because as I always say, he was the greatest second guitarist in the world.
Right.
Do you agree with what I'm saying about Paice? Paice is definitely in the mix. He's right up there, and his drumming seems a lot busier. So it's like he's over. I won't say the word overcompensating, but he's really compensating for what's happening in front of him. You know, like putting something a little bit extra in.
Yeah, he might have been trying to compensate, but yeah, I noticed that.
Rob, what do you think of this track?
It sounds awesome. I mean, it sounds really good. Again, yeah, Tommy, the absence there is notable. But yeah, with Paice, he's listening to everything. I mean, he's really kind of dialed in. And I think what he's doing with the tune, how he's playing, is perfect. I mean, filling in those gaps to keep it going. I think it's really smart, and it really shows, like, what a really good drummer can do for a band. When you got a crappy drummer, it's not going to work at all. But he is like, I mean, chef's kiss to that playing, man. It's like he's so good. I mean, he's one of my favorites. But he's definitely, him and John are the saviors, all the way through. But yeah, excellent.
Absolutely. And the bass is just everything's right up in the mix except the guitar.
Yeah,
it's just non-existent. And like, can you sort of see the David Coverdale, the Whitesnake persona coming out?
Yeah. He did in with his first solo album. I think that was sort of an extension, but without going totally Whitesnake just yet. And David said that the song Whitesnake and Blind Man he wrote for the next Purple album, which never happened. So that would have been awesome, having a Purple do a song called Whitesnake, and then that being his band in the future.
Absolutely. And he wrote a song called Breakdown, which was about everything that was happening in Purple that wasn't so good. What about you, Rob? Are you a bit of a David Coverdale fan? Can you see the Snake Man's persona coming out?
Yeah, especially during breakdowns, even on this recording, on this live recording, he breaks down to the ooh babe, they're really deep, it's like all that stuff is starting to come in. The Coverdaleisms are starting to emerge, and you can hear that, bridging into Whitesnake, But yeah, if he actually wrote Whitesnake in Deep Purple, then he had to write a song called Deep Purple when he had Whitesnake, I guess. But yeah, you could hear all those little mannerisms start to creep in, that stylistic, tinges in his vocal, on this record. So yeah, it's a complete natural progression, for sure.
I've got a theory about Mark IV that it's a band of three. So there's three camps. So you've got Lord and Paice. They're thick as thieves. They're one part. And then you've got Hughes and Bolin, the Fiends, and then you've got Coverdale in the middle. And that doesn't make a happy camp sort of scenario where you've got three different things. Because I think David was just doing things by himself because he wasn't involved with the shenanigans that Hughes and Bolin were up to. And then, I don't think he was super close with Paice and Lord. So I think he was forging his own journey, and it was quite a miserable experience. So, and that came out, I think that was quite evident in those first two solo albums, Mark, because they're quite melancholy. A lot of the lyrics, Only My Soul, Breakdown, he's really, I don't think he had a great time at all during this era. Okay, let's go to the next song, and let's see how we go with this. I like how he says they all came out to Montreal. I'm gonna go to the solo. See how we go. So where's the solo going? Oh boy, Mark. I think it's like he's playing the solo on one string. I don't think he knows where he's going, and I really think he gets lost. Playing that solo.
Yeah, I totally agree. That being said, overall, I don't mind that version.
I've heard worse. Versions, and where they get a little bit rambly. And I don't mind the turn of phrase where Coverdale says they all went out to Montreux.
Yeah.
You know, putting it in that sort of perspective. But boy, oh boy, Bolin is really lost in that. It's like brain fog. He's going in one direction. He goes, how do I finish it? And then he sort of remembers that, the end of the solo, and he's got to do a little bit of an effect. Rob, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say pedestrian, but I think lost is a good word too, that he's kind of in the weeds and not really sure how to get out of them. It's a very trademark solo as well as the riff. So like, what do you do with that when you're, when you're the hired gun, so to speak. So it's a challenge. There's a lot of shoes to fill here, whether it's Tommy or it's David, you're filling some shoes, it's, eyes are on you, so being it's Japan, they're very polite about it, he's, still in the fog, I think, for sure, I wasn't really impressed,
No, it's a solo you can't stuff up. You've got to play it as it is. I can hum that solo. And if you don't play it right, it's like Stairway to Heaven. It's like Black Dog. It's like, it's an iconic solo, and you cannot stuff it up. And
you don't want to make it sound pedestrian, that's what this sounds like.
You think it's a little bit pedestrian. Yeah. And I can hear the drumming he's just, I don't know if he's just putting something a little bit extra just to, I think those two, Lord and Paice, they would have been getting quite fired up about it. We've got to get through. We've got to push it through. We've got to overcompensate.
It's like too, a part of that's a great. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
It's like a part of the body's not working.
Yeah. When you're throwing stuff out to people, you want a response. Especially in a band situation. This happened to Come in Hell or High Water. Which I keep referring to sporadically. But you want to give people little things, You want to throw something out and get a response back as players, So I think that's probably why there's overcompensation, because you're trying to get something going from different parts of the stage, So
I've got a confession to make. I like Hell or High Water. I think it's dramatic. I like the drama.
Yes, certainly.
He picks his moment to come on stage 3/4 of the way in, throws water at the camera. Mark, are you a fan of that? I think that's a really dramatic opening to that concert. I like it. It's high drama.
It's Blackmore, and I love it. And the more like that he was, the more I liked it.
Yeah, I'd take that over this version any day. That sort of, I think we need sort of drama. Yeah. Have you guys seen any footage? Because this last concert in Japan, there was video. There was, for a long period of time, there was some film, and it had been missing, and they found it, and it's been remastered, and I've watched it. Have you guys seen it on YouTube?
Yeah, and from a visual thing, it looked pretty good. So it's too bad they couldn't get unreleased recordings and sort of merge them in there. But Yeah, the video was okay, but from what I remember, they only videoed 30 minutes of it.
Yeah, that's correct. But I think it's a real smoke and mirrors because, Tommy Bolin looks good. He's doing
Yeah, it looks
shapes.
great.
He's
Yeah,
wearing a kimono or whatnot, and he's looking very, I think he's compensating that he can't play. I think it's almost like he's on top of the pops. He's miming. He's doing all the shapes, but he's not actually playing. Rob, have you seen any of the live footage of this era?
Very, very small amounts. I haven't watched a great length of it, apart from like Phoenix Rising, which I guess was the documentary about all this. So I didn't see too much of it, unfortunately. So I have to go back and rewatch that.
Yeah, definitely. It's a historical curio. All right, all you guys game to hear Highway Star. This is where it really gets. It's probably the nadir. What do you reckon, Mark?
I'd rather see the video, but go ahead.
All right, let's play it. Boy, oh boy. I actually would say that he's actually playing the wrong song. He's playing on one string and he's doing sort of a riff from another Bolin song. He's really missed the mark there. What do you think, Mark?
Yeah, he's totally gone.
Lost.
He was putting in an effort, but that's about all it was. And the results weren't good.
So this is the moment of the song where it gets really kind of neoclassical. He's doing like a Bach riff. He doesn't even try because he can't. He's incapacitated, and I don't know if he ever got to that level, even when he was fully functional. But that's kind of embarrassing. Rob, what do you think?
That is rough. It's like at a point too where if you're rooting for somebody, when they're playing a solo, like you just. Like, oh, come on, you're almost there. It's like it's such a arduous experience to do that, to sit there and try to like root for somebody to like, even if you're seeing it live in the audience and you're doing that, it just blows. It's unfortunate. That's what I could think of in terms of how to describe it. But yeah, I mean, songs on drugs. That's what you get. It's the kind of stuff you get,
It's complete contempt for the audience. And as I said, I would imagine that the Japanese audience would be very polite. They would have clapped and taken it, with aplomb. But the knock and tumble of UK, that wouldn't have flown in any shape or form. Yeah. So, Rob, do you want to quickly talk about just your perception of some of the other... So, hold up the CD. So, this is the extended version of the album, and there's a couple of extra tracks. Do you just want to quickly give us a summary of what those tracks are and your views on it?
I mean, it's essentially, there's 17 tracks altogether. Drifter's on this record. There's a guitar solo from Tommy on here. This Time Around, the song is on this record. There's a solo with John Lord. So there's a few different spots where there's actual solos.
No guitar solos though.
Yeah, just the Ode to G is pretty much is about it. But there is
as much as you can get. Yeah.
Yeah, if you want to call it a solo, it is. It's like track 7 on disc 2. There's a Tommy Bolin guitar solo. It's not much to write home about. It's just a shame. I was really expecting to hear some really good. It sounds better. I mean, they remastered it, so the concert sounds better. But yeah, I just, You know, I mean, Soldier of Fortune was great. You know, John Lord's solo, he had a keyboard solo. He would quote different classical pieces and then bring it into Lazy. And then, of course, there's the drum solo after Lazy with Ian. So, I mean, Ian just knocks it out. I mean, what else do you expect from Ian? Paice, you know, is to just completely just destroy, you know, on a live show. Just so good, you know. But yeah, it's a good album, I guess, you know, but I think even, you know, some of the liner notes talking about the album and the band itself at that point, you know, I guess a lot of it too is like in those times, a lot of these bands were ran to the ground because of, you know, the good old dollar, whatever currency you want to throw on there. So I think that's a reflection too of probably some of the drug use, is that these guys were never getting a break. They're just, you make the record, you go out and you tour. You make a record, go out and tour. And it's a machine. And no person can withstand that, you know. So you get the casualties from that type of, you know, business model, you know, with the musicians. You just can't run them that way. You can't run them into the ground. So you get these pre-existing conditions that are exasperated. So it's a good disc to own. I mean, it's really the first one that I got, you know, with Tommy on it in purple. So, and I got another Tommy Bolin compilation record that has the solo music on there and things like that, and different, you know, different compilations of different things on the compilation Tommy Bolin release. But I think that came out around the same time as this one, 2001. I would recommend it. I mean, you know, it kind of sours me a little bit when I talking about this particular record we're talking about right now. So it just kind of gave me a little bit more, I guess, breath about Tommy and a little more favorable light, but not by very much. So
Okay. Mark O'Neill, Deep Purple,
Yes.
last concert in Japan, behind me. Is this the worst Deep Purple live release ever?
Probably. I don't have every live album, but almost all of them. And yeah,
Rob?
and the saddest.
And the saddest, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Rob, what do you think?
yeah, I concur. I definitely agree with that. And even David Coverdale in '95 said this shouldn't have been put out. So I think him and Glenn are on the same page in terms of that. You know, that this shouldn't have been a tribute record to Tommy. I don't see any tribute at all, except for the cover of the guitarist sitting there by itself. I don't think it's a very good tribute at all to his playing. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but yeah, I agree.
Well-
I agree. It's not really their best album.
Well, what I'm about to say might be very controversial, but I think it's the worst Deep Purple live album, but I'd rather listen to this than the Purple album by Whitesnake. Any comments? Any quick comments? Mark?
I agree. I must say, when the Purple album came out, I was excited. Listened to it the first time, and it was still the excitement. And then I played it a second and a third, and it was like a totally different album than I heard the first time. And I haven't played it all the way through since.
Yeah, it's like the marrow has been sucked out of the songs. It's just so bombastic, and even though this is a poor live show, there is still moments of brilliance. You've got John Lord. You can listen to Paice. You've got Coverdale doing these bluesy sort of vocals.
Yeah.
There's still a lot of positives. And,
Oh, sure.
I think as an archival, historical, you know, if you're a Purple fan, get it. But it's definitely the worst live album they ever put out. And, yeah, so take that as a recommendation or not. Gentlemen, thank you. I have to get you back on. We'll do another show. Mark O'Neill, hear him on Pulse 94.7 FM. Lots of different things. He covers Black Sabbath. He covers Deep Purple. Lots of different shows. I'll put the link below. Thank you, Mark, for coming on the show. And Rob Buchta, thank you. I really appreciate your commentary on that. See him on Rushfans and Good News Music on YouTube. I'll put the link below. And folks, tell us what you think of this album. Were we being a little bit critical? You know, what are your opinions, good, bad, or indifferent? We love reading your comments. Please like and subscribe to Rock Daydream Nation. The one thing's for sure, we'll be talking more things rock in 2026 and beyond. All the best and cheers.
Thank you.